I got money in the bank, gold in the safe, 30 in the clip, I got more in my waist. Done the whole shit, I can let it go to waste. Hold up. Boy, I got money in the bank, gold in the safe, 30 in the clip, I got more in my waist. Done the whole shit, I can let it go to waste.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard, here with the Sunday Night Chop Up. We're going to do a live stream. Hopefully, we're going to have a decent roundtable. I do know for a fact that somebody is going to show up. My man, Diesel TV. What's going on, big dog?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hang on, let me get my smoke out. You got me wanting to light up a cigar over here. Hang on.
Well, I always got one with me. Hey.
I know. I feel like I'm slacking. Ever since I met you a couple years ago, I was like, man, I need to start getting my cigar game on point, and I've just been slacking. Let's see here.
You don't have to. It's not a good habit to have. It's a relaxing habit, but I wouldn't say it's a good habit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm smoking a Sweet Jane, and this is by Drew Estates. You know anything about Drew Estates?
Drew Estates makes a lot of good cigars, man. Yes, sir.
People say that Drew Estates is like the White Claw of the cigar game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, because they make so many infused cigars. They do the acids, they do the tobaccos, they do a lot of infused cigars, and that's what the women tend to like more. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why they say that, because it is what the women run to. Oh, so
I'm smoking on a more feminine flavor. Is that what you're saying?
Any cigar that's flavored is a feminine cigar, I think. I mean, anything that's it's catered to the women's tasting points, right? They like sweet things in their mouths. That's
my God! Pause. Man, you roasting me over here. Golly. Golly, hang on a second here. Let me get this toasted up.
I'm
here.
smoking on the aging room, Maduro. So.
Do you have a humidor at your house?
Yeah. If you look at those two refrigerators on my bar, those two are humidors. These two right here,
okay.
That one and that one. Those are humidors.
Okay. So anybody that wants to join the stream tonight, we're doing a roundtable discussion. I got a lot of topics I want to hit on. The first one, and I'm so glad that Diesel is here first. Hang on a second. Man, this thing is smoky as hell. Hang on.
Hey, man, I appreciate that patch, bro. That's real nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, man, I'm so happy with them. My next one that's coming in is so dope, too. Like, I'm so happy with how these are coming out. I got a good supplier. My man, he does a good job. So, Diesel, I want to show you a video. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is Detective Matt Thornton. He's really prominent on YouTube. I think he's got over 100,000 followers. He might have 300,000. And he seems like a good dude. The first video that I saw of him, he came off kind of officer friendly. Do you know who Officer Friendly is down in Arkansas?
No.
So I'm from Arkansas, and we had a guy, I can't remember for the life of me what his real name is, but he goes by Officer Friendly. And there was a lot of controversy about him when I was younger because, back in the 90s, it was like you didn't know where he was coming from. He's a white guy. He works in a predominantly black neighborhood, and he was always taking pictures of like him playing basketball. Now, this is before social media. So like it'd be him playing basketball, or he would be sitting and have the kids like, all around him. He's eating chips.
Like Tommy. What's this? Tommy?
That's him, Officer Friendly. That's the dude from Arkansas.
Oh, yeah. I know who he is. Yeah.
What's his name?
I can't remember his last name. I think it's Tommy something.
With the bald dude, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Got a black wife. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So there was and you probably know this then, like there was a lot of people in the black community, quote unquote, that were like, what's his motivation behind this? Like, is he doing it just for clout? But, it's been it's been close to 30 years. Like, and like you say, he's got a black wife. Like, dude's legit, right?
Right. So
this Detective Matt Thornton, he's got the same kind of vibe. Okay. So I'm going to play two of his videos. When they're shorts. So I'm going to play two of his shorts so you can kind of see where he's coming from. And then I want to ask you a question. So stand by. Let me pull his first video up. All right, here we go.
6 cops have been killed this week and this month.
Okay.
And some guy walking around the parking lot recording vehicles is not. It's not normal.
Okay. Well, it's not normal, but is it legal?
So
illegal?
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a police report and figure out who you are.
Okay. Is it illegal?
This right here is a no-no. You cannot hide behind this officers get killed all the time line in order to undercut the Constitution. Don't get me wrong, prayers and thoughts go out to anyone who lost their life. But you absolutely can't stand behind that to try to win and go around rules. And for the record, there's a lot more dangerous jobs than being a police officer. I actually worked in a chemical plant before I became an officer, and there was all kinds of things that could kill you in that place. I signed up for this knowing I might be put in some dangerous predicaments. I don't need to bring that up to anybody. I was just talking to my cousin about this last week. He was in Afghanistan for a year. He's a war veteran. And he told me it just gets under his skin when officers act like they're in a war zone.
I know exactly who that is. Yep.
What are your thoughts on him?
I think he brings a lot of light to the actual level of where officers need to be. I mean, he says a lot of things. Now, I don't follow him. I've just seen a few of his videos, and what I've seen, he's spoken the truth about. I think a lot of the things that he says are a little overboard sometimes. I don't know if he's still an officer. Sometimes he talks like he's not an officer anymore.
I think he's working, and if Matt, if you're watching this, I don't mean to speak out of turn. I think that he's working as a school resource officer at the moment.
Okay.
He has expressed that there's been a lot of backlash with the way that he carries himself and the things that he says. So, I have.
From who though? From law enforcement or from the community? From
law enforcement, yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, there is no. Listen, I got backlash for some of the things that I said. Right? There is no doubt in my mind that he's going to get backlash from people in law enforcement because he's airing out our dirty laundry.
Why is that? Because this has been, that you and I had we had a brief exchange about something last week, I guess.
Right.
And, there's another social media creator that I really do like. And I think that, the unfortunate thing about social media is that it's hard, things get taken out of context, number one. And then number two, especially if you're looking at a short, a 30-second short, you can't convey a much larger message. So a lot of times, the more that I have been vocally critical of law enforcement and some of the actions that law enforcement takes, people have taken that kind of the wrong way, in my opinion. I don't feel like I'm out of line. And I wanted to ask you if you felt like I was out of line, because I think a lot of times the things that I say, people, they take it in this real negative tone, and that's not the way
okay, so let me start this by saying the reason why is just like any family that doesn't want their bad apples out there, right? So a lot of people are like, why are you putting this out there when all officers are not like that, right? So they feel some type of way that is out there, and it's making all of us look a certain way, and he's having an opinion about all, you know what I'm saying? So it just like your family, your family doesn't want you airing out the bad laundry. Same thing in your profession. If you was a CEO of a company, or if you work for a company, they don't want you airing out the bad laundry, right? That goes with any industry that you're in. The fact of the matter, when it comes down to it, when you were saying what you were saying, and sometimes when you say what you do say, as an officer, I can tell you've never done the actual job, right? Yeah. And when you say it, it's like, oh, bro, you've never done it. And it's like you're coming from a place where you've never done it. So you sound like a civilian, even though you are very close connected to the job and what you do. It just sounds like you're coming from a civilian standpoint. And that's where the frustration comes from, right? Because people say certain things a certain way that have never done it. And then it's like, I think that's where the animosity comes from when it comes to a lot of cops and your standpoint. Now, what I will say is I will never argue with you or get mad at you from your standpoint, right? Because you haven't been there. Only time I would get angry with you if you had that standpoint and you have been there, because you know what it is to do that job, right? You know what it is to be in that situation. you know, I criticize law enforcement as well, right? There's
Absolutely.
no, you know, I don't hold back from any criticism when it comes to law enforcement, but there are certain things that I do understand when it comes to law enforcement.
So when you say something like that, like my stance is you don't have to be a police officer when the conversation is about the Constitution, right? Okay. And I know that it's a tough topic. You know, I have one mentor that I'm extremely close to. I don't think that just because of the way that he carries himself and his demeanor, I don't think that he would ever take offense. I think that his stance is always kind of like very middle of the road in terms of he's not going to try and argue with you, period. It's like, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
The other one, I think that if he were to hear me say certain things, I think that it would hurt him. I think that it would hurt his feelings, number one, because he knows this is the weird dichotomy of me, right? Because he knows how I view him. He knows how much I respect him, and he knows how much I respect law enforcement. So I think for him to hear me say certain things, he would be like, where is this even coming from? Because he's an older guy. He's, you know, put 30 years behind the badge. And I think that from talking to him, being around him and listening to him, I think that truly his heart has always been in the right place. That doesn't mean that he hasn't ever done anything where he's gotten out of line, but right. I think that his view is that his heart has always been in the right place.
Well, I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of the officers take it personal.
Yeah.
I don't take anything that you say pertaining to me specifically. It's pertaining to my profession, right? That's why I don't take it personal, because I know you're not talking about me with some of the things that you say, right? So that's why it doesn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't bother me when certain people say certain things about law enforcement in a bad light, because I know for a fact that I don't operate like that. So, but there are people that do. So we have to keep those two. We have to be logical when we talk about those kind of things and know that there are bad cops, right? Yeah. And there's going to be people that have had bad experience with law enforcement. So we have to understand that those sentiments are going to be out there, not pertaining to you specifically, but if that's the only cop that they dealt with, they're going to think that police is like that. I mean, that's just a logical way of thinking.
Yeah, and I think that I have to also remember that, you know, in order to have any sort of constructive dialogue about anything that's sensitive, you have to first have a relationship with that person. And I think that I see my relationship with people a lot further down the road than it is at the time. You know what I mean? So like if I'm having a conversation with somebody on YouTube every 6 weeks, or we're just commenting back and forth on a post, you know, that's not a real relationship. It kind of is in a way, but it's not like, you know, knowing somebody and having a deep understanding to where you can say something that can be a little bit dicey or a little bit spicy. And they're like, no, like, I'm not taking that personal. You're coming from somewhere, like, tell me more. If you don't have that relationship and you come off that way, someone is like, hey, who the hell do you think you are? You know what I mean? It's a completely different conversation. So I am trying to be more understanding of that and more respectful of that, because I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to shut people down. And I've tried really hard with this platform to open up these lines of dialogue, because I do think that I have a gift of doing that.
Well, you're not. So that's the thing about it. You're with this climate and day and age that we're in, you're not going to be able to not, you know, upset people. Yeah. Right? It's going to come regardless, especially when it comes to cops.
Yeah.
Like some of the cops are some of the most feminine, raised. I mean, like they act like little girls sometimes when they talk about our profession.
Yeah.
You know, we try to be so much like the military, but the military don't give two. I don't know if you can cuss on here, but they don't give two F's about what you say about the military. They're going to handle business, right? Yeah, and I think that's where this profession, same as security, right? I think these kind of professions have to have that kind of outlook. Regardless of what you say, we still have to handle business. Yeah, we might have some people that might do some things wrong, and we'll try to fix that. But we're still having to handle business, regardless of the fact. These the First Amendment auditors and things of that sort, what people don't understand is when it comes to that, regardless of if they're doing things within the law or not. We have a job to do. And
Absolutely.
if there's a call that comes out on them, we're going to approach them. And just the matter of fact that they have that attitude is what makes that interaction the way it goes, right? A lot of cops have that high man on the totem pole. You can't tell me what's wrong, what's right, or what's wrong, right? So I think that's where that washes out, and it comes to a good cop looking as if they're a bad cop because they're just so frustrated with what's going on in that whole interaction, right? So, and misinformation, a lot of misinformation when it comes to cops.
Did you get a chance to, speaking of cops, did you get a chance to see the California mayor security guard? I think it's the mayor of San Jose.
I watched your video on that. Yes, I watched a little bit of your video on that.
Well, I'm gonna pull up the video from the newscast point of view, and I want you just to give your opinion in terms of like how this person handled the detail, what your thoughts are on, you know, the way that he interacts with the person, and, you know, just kind of chime in and you know, kind of give us some feedback on it. Here's the video.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, bro, this is a bunch of young immigrants.
I would not let him go in there if we can. I don't know.
Hey, so Diesel, I did find out that this guy that gets involved with the fight with the cop, he works in this location.
Okay.
So, you know, the mayor is
how they're going to stop him from going in there, even if
right. So the mayor is facing his security detail. The security detail is kind of on our side, right? And so, by all accounts, when he says, "I would not let this guy go in there," that's kind of what starts the interaction. And this guy works there, so I'll pick it up from there.
You want to say something stupid? Drop the word, just slap him in the face.
So I'm doing an interview, sir.
Are you doing an interview? Yeah. Thank you. Oh yeah, I'm moving on. I work right there. I'm talking on the phone. You got a problem? Yeah, we're just trying to do. Okay, cool. I appreciate you, mind. Yeah, you should mind. Should mind. Yeah. I'm gonna go do what gonna do right before you walked up. You know what I'm saying? Either way it goes. First of all, hold up. What?
So when he flings his hand like that, I'm assuming that the officer puts his hands maybe on his shoulder, kind of like, you know, a little body check or whatever. What do you think so far about that?
I think at this point, I think the officer was in the wrong. The guy can even if it is a video, they're trying to do an interview. If he wants to stand in front of the camera, how can you stop him?
Right.
I don't think. I don't know, man. You know, a lot of the times, you know, and it's gotten me in trouble. Well, not in trouble, but you know, if a mayor says you need to do something, officers don't want to tell them no.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the troubles come into, because it is an authority of the town, city, or whatever that you're in, and you see that person as an authority, but they're not over the law, so they can't really tell you to do things that's against somebody's rights or the law.
Yeah.
So at that point, there's not really much you can do. What I would have done, I would say, "Hey, man, we're doing an interview," and he was, "I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stand where I want to stand." Okay, hey, look, we need to move this somewhere else.
Absolutely, boom, done.
You know, I mean, like just be done with it. Let's move this somewhere else. Let him be where he's gonna be. We can move this somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
No, bro, hold up. No, let go. Hold on a second. Let's go. I'll smack you right now, bitch. Okay. I will smack you. You want to get smacked?
Now, at this time, has he identified himself as an officer?
There's nothing that points to him saying that he's a police officer at this point.
Oh, no, that's not. Come on, man.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why? I mean, do you think that it's just a situation? I mean, we're speculating, right? So no disrespect to that officer, no disrespect to the situation. We're speculating, but you know, why would he not immediately identify himself as a police officer?
So these are the questions I had when I saw your video, and I know you can't answer these questions.
I have a theory, but go ahead.
Is this an extra duty job? Is this an off-duty security gig for the officer, or is this his post through the police department? That was my first question. I know you might not be able to answer that, because those two things change the dynamic of what he does and doesn't do, right?
So wait, if he's a sworn officer, though, if he's working off duty in a secondary capacity, he can't use his police authority. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He still can do everything, but it's a different. It's a different when you're working security for an establishment than when you're working for the streets.
Okay.
Right? It's totally different because you're not actually enforcing the law at that time. You're enforcing the rules of that establishment. So once you're doing security detail for somebody, you're not actually out enforcing the law. You're supposed to be doing security detail. So there's supposed to be somebody that's actually on the clock to enforce those laws.
Okay. So
you know what I'm saying? So it's not. It's
the mayor
kind of different.
The mayor should technically have a working police officer as his security detail.
Yeah, but I've seen it to where they have off duty also doing that. So I don't know what dynamic that's in, right? So if the mayor wants constant security, I don't know if it's paid on the clock or off duty. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Well, that makes a little bit of a difference then. Okay, but that. Does that change if you're working off duty in a security capacity, but you're a sworn police officer, and then you get into this altercation? Is that still assault on an officer?
Yes, but the thing about doing off duty is you don't want to do anything that takes you away from that post. That's why I say you want whoever's working on the clock to enforce those laws, because they got to take them to jail and all that stuff, right? If you enforce that law or you enforce something as a off duty or something like that, then you got to find a replacement to do his security detail.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's that dynamic of what was his duties and what is the protocol for him to enforce the law, because at that time, if he has a one-man security duty, he has no security if that guy has to take him to jail.
Oh man, good point. Okay, let's move forward a little bit. Now, in this situation, since the guy has kind of backed up and the fight has somewhat stopped, like my opinion here was like he should be back on the principle in getting these people either moved out or in. Does he need to re-engage this guy?
Well, he's actually assaulted him. So, I mean, that's putting yourself. That's what I'm saying. You're putting yourself in a predicament that you don't really want to be in. Yeah. He is supposed to be security for the mayor, but now he has to enforce the law. So, I don't know, man. That's one of those things, man. I think that guy needs to go to jail after he assaulted somebody. If he wasn't first assaulted without knowing he was the police, right? I'm going off of what I've seen. I didn't see him get assaulted first. We can assume he did because he flipped his hand away. But from what I'm seeing is the black gentleman assaulted the officer first.
Yeah.
So I think that he should have to go to jail for that.
Oh, he did. He did. I think that it'll be interesting to see how this ends up getting litigated. Any thoughts on why it looks like you can clearly see a badge. I think that's a badge on his waist there. Any thoughts on why this person would not potentially be carrying a firearm? Or do you think he just showed a lot of restraint?
Was he not carrying a firearm?
I mean, it never comes out. He never affects an arrest.
Are you sure he was a police officer?
He is a police officer, I am sure.
And he wasn't carrying a firearm.
Well, it's never said that he is or he isn't. He never produces a firearm. So either
the firearm should have came into play at all. There was no reason for him to bring out his firearm.
Listen, I'm saying that if he didn't produce a firearm, he showed incredible restraint. More restraint than I think most officers who seem to be. Yeah, I think he showed incredible restraint. We've seen police officers. Look, don't get me going down this road again. But I have seen police officers pull a firearm in less of a stressful situation. Have we not?
No, not just hands. Not somebody just fighting with hands. That doesn't usually happen. Usually, an officer doesn't pull out his firearm if somebody just wants to throw hands.
I think I made a lot of progress today and not insult.
I mean, hold on. We have to differentiate what we see on YouTube and what we see on regular streets, right? So on a normal situation, in most situation, if a person is just throwing hands, there might be a taser presented, yeah, but not a firearm. That is not the level of enforcement, right? That's not the continuum of.
You won't get any argument. You won't get any argument from me that that's not the continuum and that shouldn't happen. I would say that there is.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. That's not what I'm saying.
I would say that there is substantial anecdotal evidence that would suggest to the contrary, that there are multiple examples of where police officers are in less.
I'm not saying that there aren't. I'm not saying that there aren't, but
right.
I'm kind of biased because I see a lot more body camera than you do, right?
Absolutely.
So what I see on YouTube is a total different story of what actually happens, right? Yeah, people are going to pull out the videos that's going to show an officer pull out his gun way more than an officer going hand to hand with somebody.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? So
I got you. I
get what you're saying. Let's wash all that out. Let's just go off of that is not the continuum that he should have been using at the time, and he didn't, right?
Agreed.
There's no reason for him to bring out a firearm. So yeah, I don't think he would have.
Yeah. No, what do you think about the combatives? Any thoughts on the lack of what looks like lack of skill for that officer? Is that
that's
something that is just an anomaly? I mean, I feel like most officers are.
Majority of officers, sad to say, majority of officers are the ones that got bullied in school and they want to enforce their badge on somebody, and they can't fight. They can't survive. I mean, that's how it is, man. You find very few officers that are able to actually throw hands. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a thing. I would see a lot of officers will get their ass whooped if they went to hand with somebody.
I try to tell security guards this all the time. I'm like, y'all are begging to get involved in shit, and you have no idea what these people will do to you.
No clue.
Like, you don't want it.
I mean, if officers didn't have pepper spray or if they didn't have a taser, there would be a lot more officers out here getting their ass whooped.
Yeah. Man.
And he didn't have any of those, right? So I think that's why it was one of those situations to where he was trying to back off a little bit and he didn't pursue the guy. If that man would have had a taser pull out on him, he would have pulled that taser out and was like, get on the ground.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's that, and when it ended right there. But this can't end because he can't end it.
Do you take videos like that and show them to your guys, and you're like, "Hey, look, this is the reality of a fight. Just because you're in a situation where you think you have the upper hand, you have the authority, you know, people continue to fight." Like, do you have that conversation with your guys?
I would show this video if I knew more information.
Understood.
I didn't know a little bit more information of what his capacity was, what his actually detail was, all that stuff before I talk to my guys, because I can't use this as a street officer if he wasn't detailed as a street officer, right? It just doesn't compare.
Okay, that's fair. So I want to hit you with a couple of hot topics, Diesel. The first one is clearly the biggest one, the biggest elephant in the room. What were your thoughts on the Seattle situation with Mr. Brian Vinegar?
I have no idea about this situation.
What? You have not? You didn't hear about this?
I heard you talking about it, but I have not been able to catch up on it, man. I saw videos on it. I saw your video, but I didn't watch it. I wasn't able to get to watching it, and I just forgot all about it.
Well, I'll give you the quick rundown. So he is a security guard working at a Walgreens in Seattle, in what has been described as a very dangerous area, but that's beside the point. He approaches a young black female. She's actually 5'1". She's tiny. She's less than 100 pounds. That does play into one aspect that I want to bring up here in a second, but he approaches her. He tells her that he has been informed by management that she was seen concealing items. He wants the items back. She denies having any involvement in any sort of shoplifting. He follows her around the store. He takes his handcuffs out of his cuff pouch and tells her that if she doesn't stop, she's going to be detained. He's going to put her on the ground and detain her. He, tells her to empty her pockets. He's completely out of line. And then you can see that he's wearing his uniform. And then on his left waist, he's wearing a New York detective's badge.
Oh wow, that's what I'm saying. He had two different badges on. Why? I mean,
Yeah.
so one's an actual detective's badge.
One is an actual detective's badge. Aside from that, right, that is impersonating an officer. He's got 2 body cameras. Neither of them were on. When she calls the cops and the cops get there, he gives a false police report. He says on the video that the management had told him that she was stealing. And when he gives the report to the officers, he tells the officers in his statement that he doesn't remember who told him that she was stealing. And then on top of all of this, when everything is over, the young lady goes home. She calls up to the Walgreens to talk to the manager. He never informed any of the management at Walgreens that any of this had happened.
So did he actually detain her, or?
He detained her by proximity, and he detained her by, intimidation of being taken to the ground. He had the handcuffs in his hands, which, they're calling that assault by all intents and purposes. He did not file a report with his company, did not tell them what happened. And then when they look into this entire situation, he's not even up to date on his certification. So he's working armed with a taser, a firearm, handcuffs, OC spray, and he's not even certified via the state at the time all this happens.
Wow.
And
wow.
She has it all on video. Man, they filed that lawsuit so quick.
Yes, sir.
And, everybody's getting hit. She's suing Walgreens. She's suing the pharmacy. She's suing him. She's suing that guy's wife. She's suing the security company.
So this is the thing that I was telling you about, man. These kind of things is what we see on a day-to-day basis dealing with security.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember one of the last few ones, and I forgot to tell you about this, but I remember the last few ones. We had a club had a security guard out there, and this mug was wearing 2 vests.
How was he doing that?
He had 2 vests on because his chest was poking out like this, and I was like, "Man, what's going on with your chest? You working out or something?"
Yeah,
he was like, "I got 2 vests on." I was like, "Why do you have 2 vests? Like, why does he have 2 cameras? Why does he have 2 badges?" Like, a lot of the things that security it just seems like security tries so hard to be in a certain light.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it just makes it look bad for guys like you that just are out here. That makes no sense.
This is the quintessential officer doing too much.
Yes.
And I'm not a gear snob. Like, I feel like wear what you need. And you were just talking about 2 vests. Do you notice this guy has like a riot? He's got like a riot vest on underneath the carrier.
He's got neck protector. Come on, man. I wore that my first year in SWAT. We wore that. We don't even wear those anymore. Those are so outdated. Like, really?
Do you see this down where you're at in North Carolina?
I have not seen that yet. No, because North Carolina, man, they are very strict on armed security. Very strict. Armed security cannot resemble to any point local law enforcement whatsoever. So they have to wear a different color, different badge as a local law enforcement they're working, right? So no, we don't really see that much. And it has gotten to a point to where if we do see an officer, security officer dressed like this, we call the company and we call PPS to say, "Hey, he's doing a little much. Y'all might want to watch him."
What do you guys have like issues with in terms of officers' gear on the security side? What would be something that would get your attention?
Trying to do too much. Just really trying to do too much. I mean, security has to do a certain thing, right? But like, we had one security guard that was wearing the whole TAC setup, like the helmet, all that stuff in a daggone Walmart. He was trying to do it at a Walmart, and it was like, what is all this for?
Yeah.
I mean, like, those are the kind of things that we are. It's either one or the other. Either you're trying to put yourself in a situation where you're going to need that stuff, or you're just trying to intimidate somebody.
That comes down to my next issue, which is optics. I'm big on trying to get officers to understand the importance of optics. I still have a lot of pushback from security, even if it's the guys that I work with, people in the same company, people that are in the Portland area that I talk to, out on the street, definitely people on YouTube. There seems to be this lack of willingness of people to understand that it's 2024 and how important optics are. I had made a statement about, if you're in Portland, if you're in Seattle, if you're in California, really, if you're anywhere, but definitely in some of these, just more left-leaning areas, you have to be aware of the optics. If you interact with, an aggrieved minority community, or, I'm trying to find the right words to not get myself in trouble here, but like just any sort of community that is very socially oppressed, let's just say that, you have to be aware of that optic. And people are like, well, that shouldn't matter. I should be able to approach a trans female the same way that I approach a black male, and it shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
And we can debate those things all day long on a platform like this, but when it comes to a retail establishment in Portland, I can guarantee you that it does matter. And when it comes to, a shopping mall in California, it does matter. And it'll matter to the point of your company losing the contract, of you not being able to work in security. Like in 2024, when you're working with your officers, do you guys have conversations about the changes that have come in terms of optics, optics with police and the public, or how you approach people, things that you say when you're making a detainment or an arrest? Is that something that you guys talk about as well?
Optics is a very, very big thing, so any kind of security or law enforcement, you do want some kind of, I don't want to say intimidation factor, but you do want to look like people don't just want to just mess with you, right? You don't want to look like the Poindexter down the street, of course, right? I will say this, man, when my years of working security, I did 3 years of armed security before I came a cop. And I got more respect when I wore a shirt and tie and my campaign hat than I wore a tack vest. I got the most respect when I wore a shirt and tie and that campaign hat.
Yeah.
Even working at the nightclubs or whatever, they would ask me why I wore it, and we would never have a fight towards us, right? So optics means a lot. You know what I'm saying? I think an officer that works on their physique would get better respect than an officer that wore a whole bunch of equipment. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that's one of the things that I try to get my guys to understand. I can give you that tack vest. I can give you that outer carrier. I can give you that leg drop holster. I can give you all that stuff. But if your stomach is still hanging over your belt, you still not going to get the respect.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you want to do, all of the respect comes from your optics, from your physique, not your uniform.
And when you have a better outlook of yourself in general, I think that right. Officers in security and in law enforcement, you can't hide how you feel on the inside. So if you're not comfortable and confident in your own skin, if you don't feel like you're running your household, if your wife's not looking at you like a hero, I think that you carry that with you, and you can't cover it up with more equipment. Right. An officer who's in great shape, an officer that knows that he can defend himself. He knows he can go 15, 20 minutes if he needs to until help gets there. He's not walking up on people and being overly aggressive because he doesn't have anything to prove, but it's hard to get people to understand that. Like you're talking about something even bigger than just the optics. You're talking about self-respect, self-esteem, self-awareness, and it's hard to teach that.
Right. Oh yeah.
The next one is the Drake beef. Have you heard anything about this Drake beef that's going on?
I don't follow that. I've heard about it, but I don't pay no attention.
You don't pay no attention to the Drake beef?
I don't pay any attention to that, man.
Well, let me tell you why I brought it up. I didn't bring it up to talk about rap music. I brought it up to talk about something that was brought to my attention yesterday. Now, I'm not gonna call these people out, but there is a organization. It's a security guard organization. I think it's been around for 25, 30 years. Okay. It might be a nonprofit. And a retired police officer reached out to me about 6 months ago, and he said, hey, you're doing all these videos, you're doing training, you might be able to do something with these guys, see if they want to collaborate, because they don't really seem to be very, versed in like social media or how to use, a lot of new technology, things like that. So I sent them an email and I was like, hey, heard a lot about you guys, would love to work with you. Here's my YouTube channel. This is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Very cordial. And then I never heard anything back from him. So that cop was like, hey, did you ever hear anything from him? And this was like 3 months ago. I said, no. And he was like, well, maybe, they haven't decided to do anything. So they hadn't put out any information. They have a newsletter. They've got a website. And then they have like a radio show. Okay. It's like a nationally syndicated radio show. So the cop comes in yesterday and he was like, yo, you got to hear this. And he plays me their broadcast. And the guy is like, he was like, we might be shutting down because like people aren't willing to pay for information. They're not willing to, help support and fund what we're doing. And quite honestly, most of the security guards today, they're getting their information from YouTube. He was like, if you're listening to private security guards with a YouTube channel that have a podcast, that think they know what they're talking about, that run down cops. I was like, oh my God, like shots fired. You know what I mean? Like this dude he didn't call me out by name, but he was flaming me. I was like,
the thing about it, but he's not willing to come on here and set the record straight though.
I know.
You can say whatever you want to say about whoever has a YouTube channel or not. If they're wrong, come up and at least join their channel and tell them you're wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, like, don't just go on your own side, because if you think there's false information being out there, you have to reach the people that he's putting the false information out to.
Absolutely.
You're not going to do it just staying in your own corner.
Taking shots at the kid. TikTok. Social media. Do you let your officers do TikTok or anything in uniform?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah, sure.
That's different. Okay, so explain that, please.
Well, we need the personalities of these cops to be out there. People to understand that cops are everybody, right? They're not just one robot. And I think social media is the way to do it.
That is, I've never heard of departments being okay with that. Are you one of the only departments that you would say in your area that feels that way? No,
there are a lot of, I was one of the first in my county. Well, let me rephrase that. I was the first in my county to do that. There are departments that are allowing their officers to do social media under the guise of the department for recruiting and stuff like that. But a personal account, they're starting to get to that point, but it's not as like me. I don't care as long as it's nothing controversial or brings any bad light to the department. I don't care what you put on there. I don't care what. Is that your stance? You're like, hey, look, if it comes on my desk and we have to talk about it. Yeah, we're gonna talk this out. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it's something stupid, like this is my thing. I give all of my employees a rope to hang themselves with, right? Fair enough, yeah. No pun intended. But when it comes down to it, you're a grown man. You know what's going to be controversial. You know what's going to be okay and what's not going to be okay. If you're going to be the one to put it up there and risk your job by putting it up there, I'm sorry. I mean, that's just what it is. You got to deal with the consequences. Right, because TikTok and social media is just like being out in the streets these days. Right? If you're doing it out in the streets and it's going to get you fired, it's going to get you fired on TikTok too. Okay. You know, when I was offered 2 positions, 2 years ago for police departments, that was one of the things they were like, more than likely you're not going to be able to keep your social media stuff that you're doing and being so outspoken. And, in 2022 or 2023, 24, like you're saying, I've always thought that, like, man, if you want people, especially young people, to even think about getting into law enforcement, you have to give them a different side of it than what they're getting from the news, because the news is so one-sided. Most of the kids here, and when I say kids, I mean anybody from 25 down, their view of law enforcement here in Portland, it's so negative. So if you don't have somebody that's out there, putting a counter narrative out there,
There's not going to be anybody to join the force, and it's already dwindled as it is.
Yeah, man, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. I think the last one was strip club work. We've got a page here in Portland. It's for bouncers and for security guards. And I've been talking to a lot of guys on there. Most of the guys who are on that page, they're bouncers. And, Portland is the strip club capital of the world. If people didn't know that, we have more strip clubs per capita than any place in the entire world. So I wanted to interview these guys. There's a guy, he's like 7'2". They call him Tiny, of course. And he's got a long history here in Portland working in the scene. And I want to do a really in-depth dive into working in the strip club as a bouncer, the stuff that they've seen, the environment. I was going to ask you, why do you think bouncers are able to get away with so much? It just seems like compared to police and compared to security, they just have this entire different world where they're able to be more aggressive, more hands-on, get their hands dirty more. Like, why do you think that that's allowed in that capacity where it's not tolerated everywhere else?
Well, you're dealing with and that kind of atmosphere, right? That's when you go to a club, that's what you're expecting, right? And then you got the alcohol aspect to it as well, right? So a lot of things that I've seen, in my job, if alcohol is involved, a lot of things are left out of the story. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just what it is. That's just what it is. I think that has a lot to do with it, man. When you're in it with a person, one is sober and one has alcohol, and that person that is drunk goes to file a report, law enforcement, it's hard to file a report when you're drunk off your ass.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that's when it comes down to it. And then when they sober up, they realize, I was showing my ass. I don't think it's worth it.
Or I told my wife I was going somewhere else and I ain't trying to.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wasn't supposed to be at the booty joint, no way.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things, man. It's like, alcohol I think that's one of the reasons why they don't get in a lot of trouble, because of the alcohol aspect.
Okay. Well, the last thing I want to show you, I know you got to get out of here pretty soon. I'm going to show you this quick video. This is a situation that's coming out of Arizona. It's a stabbing and it involves a security guard. Now, normally when we report on something like this, it's a tragic situation where a security guard has gotten, put in a bad situation and he's got poked up. This is actually a security guard that has stabbed the subject. It's crazy. So watch this.
6:30, a violent attack caught on security cameras at a luxury hotel in downtown Phoenix. Now, this is footage you will only see here on Arizona's Family.
It shows a security guard attacking a hotel guest. Investigative reporter Morgan Lowe shows us what happened before and after this confrontation.
Phoenix police are responding to an emergency at a downtown luxury hotel.
Back up.
Callers reported a stabbing.
All of a sudden, this girl starts screaming, help me, oh my God, help me.
A fight between a security guard and a hotel guest.
So I run over there, and then I just see two dudes fighting.
At first, it seems straightforward. An angry guest pulled a knife.
Sounds like security disarmed the dude, and then the dude pulled a knife at security. Security disarmed him.
So self-defense on the guard's part?
Yeah.
So he's not a suspect?
Right.
But soon, police start hearing a different story from some of the witnesses.
Then a security guard pulled a knife out and started jabbing him.
I grabbed the victim from up under the knife. And I told his girlfriend, I said, let's run.
When investigators see the security tape, they learn it was the security guard who threw the first punch and the security guard who pulled the knife and used the knife.
You refer to this guy as the monster.
Yeah, the monster.
A real life
monster, and
wearing a shirt that says security. He was supposed to be there to protect you.
Didn't happen.
It's now been 2 years since Jesus Ravello was attacked in that hotel hallway by the hotel security guard. He was stabbed 11 times in the face, arms, back, and chest.
What do you think about that?
What the hell? What the hell? Man, this is getting kind of, what? Was he a felon?
Where do you know? So get this. I mean, it's a longer video, but they did a background check before he got hired. No priors. They do a psychological exam, I believe, in Arizona. No issues, no flags. The dude just snapped, and he's in prison right now, clearly. But I mean, just it blow. The story that I got when I looked into it, and this is what seems like what happened. Security guard is out at the pool. The whole group of people are out at the pool. Security guard is looking at the wife of the guy. Wife feels some kind of way. Guy feels some kind of way. They go inside and words are exchanged. And that's when the fight breaks out and the security guard pulls the knife. I don't really have any. I mean, there's really nothing to say. There's no defense of it. Like it's crazy. I just wanted to share that because it's just another example of, you do everything that you can. They're talking about what can they do moving forward to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen. But
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do to keep people from just snapping and being crazy.
Like if you have the protocols of, the background checks, the psych evals, all that stuff, and he still gets through. I mean, that's the same problem we're having in law enforcement. There's nothing that you can do. We do everything that we can to get the correct people to be in law enforcement, and you still have ones that slip through the cracks. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that. Now, were there signs of this? Probably so. I'm pretty sure there were. I don't think that that was his first time looking at a female.
Yeah.
If he's looking at the female like that for her to feel some type of way, pretty sure he probably got some complaints about it. So I mean, there are things that we need to do as far as the signs and acting on the signs, but there's not really much you can do, man.
Yeah. Crazy. Golly. I mean, that to me, that's got to be one of the more horrifying things. I think I'd rather be shot than be stabbed 11 times. Like that just seems absolutely brutal.
I don't even think homeboy was wearing a gun, was he?
No, he's working on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt.
So he's unarmed. So
yeah,
that's all he had was a knife.
Yeah.
Luckily, he didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, because Jesus Christ, that's crazy. Especially when it comes to you looking at my wife. Stop looking at my wife, and he is that man.
Yeah. Well, wow. Diesel, I know you got things to do tonight, man. I appreciate you coming out here, smoking a cigar with me and chopping it up. And I want you to know, bro, I really appreciate your mentorship. I look at you as a mentor, and I appreciate being able to reach out to you and talk to you. And I also appreciate you pulling my coat, man. Sometimes I need somebody to say, hey, man, like look at it from this perspective or look at it from this viewpoint. Right. And I don't ever have a problem, having the humility to say that, like, I need to get that
hey man, you got my number. Why are you still using Instagram? That's what I don't understand.
I hate calling people.
You don't gotta call me. Send me a text.
All right. I'll text you.
I don't have my Instagram on because I get so many DMs, right? So I have to constantly check it for messages, right? So text me, man. Just text me. Send me a text. I don't
want to be sliding up in the DMs now that you said I'm smoking on a what'd you say?
He's smoking on a sweet stick.
I'm gonna text you like a real player from now on, man, like a real G.
And Morris, you need to stop with that. I do answer my text. You said you
don't answer your text.
Man, that man ain't text me in so long. He don't even check on me no more. He used to check on me. He don't even check on me no more, man. but listen, I am trying to come back to YouTube. I'm trying to get things back. I've got a lot of good things coming up. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, everything will be dealt with and handled, and I'll be able to come back to YouTube. So,
all right, man, come on here. We need some more firearm stuff.
Yeah, that and I got a story to tell, bro. I got a story to tell.
Who was that female that you were taking to the range a couple of times? Didn't she have a channel? Weren't you doing something with a female that had a channel?
There was a female that had a channel. I don't know if she still has a channel or not. She came up for a collab, and we went to the range a couple times. But I've taken my daughter to the range also on some videos as well. So, but yeah,
definitely. It was a female creator that I remember you did a collab, and I think her video popped up and you were in it, and I was like, oh, that's Diesel.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That was a couple years ago. That was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Your time goes by fast, bro.
It does, man. It does. Man, that was more than 3 years ago because I've been the chief for 3 years. That was before I became chief. So that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Good Lord.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. Listen, reach out, man. I'll come up anytime if I got the time, man. You know I will.
You got it. Please be careful out there, okay?
Yes, sir. Y'all be good.
All right, stay up.